you know that you're getting ready for sleep. But despite all of that, I wanted to get the microphone and discuss this. Because it's just one of those moments of clarity, and I needed to do it now. So that's all. It's just an odd observation, but worth bringing up. You know how it is. You can have your views, you can have your differences. We don't all need to see eye to eye on everything. But remember the principles: kindness, respect, dignity. Otherwise. This is VORW, that's all that I got for now. Alright, so this is, this next part of the show, anyway, is recorded a day later. A little bit later at that. Again, I don't know, I have this habit now of getting to the microphone before I go to sleep, but why not? Again, if it's a time that works for me, it's a time that works for me. A little bit later, though, a little bit after 6 a.m. But again, winding down. Got a pretty good night sleep last night. And hopefully I'll get a sufficient rest, after I'm done saying my piece. And then have a productive day after that. Hope to get a video done. I mean, we'll see. I know by the time, because I waste so much time between recording the show and getting it up, that it's already going to be said and done, so it's no big spoiler or anything. But gonna try to do a review of this, one of those new Taco Bell items. So I'm gonna see how it is. Might be good, might be bad. Taco Bell is very, hit or miss. It's all over the place. It's like, throw a dart at the dartboard and blindfold yourself too for that extra challenge. Where's it going to hit? Are you going to get a bullseye, or is it going to be right on the edge, or is it going to miss completely? I don't know. We'll find out. Can't judge a book by its cover. Might be good, might be bad, but we'll see. But that's not why I'm here today. Not to discuss Taco Bell or anything. That's for the other channel. That's for the whole review. I had an interesting dream last night. Sometimes I remember my dreams, sometimes I don't. If on occasion, very rarely, I'll mention it if it's of any interest, if it's maybe amusing, or if it strikes out to me in a very odd way. Like, I don't know if anyone remembers, I guess it was 8-9 months ago, I talked about the one dream where the US was in the midst of the Civil War. I guess the second Civil War it would be. And someone actually, I remembered that because someone sent me an email about that the other day. They were saying that they thought that dream was really interesting. But last night I had a dream that I want to talk about it right now, because you know how this stuff is. When you have a dream, even if it's leaves an impression on you, the moment you wake up, you already start forgetting it. And with every day that passes since you had that, you forget it a little more and a little more. So it's, again, one of these instances where you want to get fresh at the microphone and discuss it while you can still remember at least more details of it. If I wait a week, it's going to be much more vague, etc. Not that it's the longest dream or the most detailed one. It's just the content of the dream was of particular interest. After having woken up and realized it was a dream. It was just a very, very interesting premise. That's why I want to talk about it. So, in this dream, it deals with the medical field, but it's not related to the coronavirus at all. It wasn't even like a big concern at that point in time. So I don't know if this was supposed to take place before the whole pandemic or after the pandemic. Maybe in an alternate universe where it never existed. I don't know. But in this dream, life seemed to be pretty normal anyway, and I needed to go to the hospital to get some sort of tests done. I forget what it was. That wasn't the purpose. The whole point of the dream was that I needed to go see this one doctor at local hospital and get some sort of test or some sort of analysis or some sort of appointment. And nothing urgent. It wasn't any sort of procedure. It wasn't any sort of emergency. It wasn't like I was being rushed there in an ambulance. I was going there on my own volition. It was just, for my own good, going there to get checked up on or whatever. And I remember I go in and it's entirely normal. It's like you're going to the doctor, This was obviously a specialist or something for one reason or another. But it was all normal. Signed in, checked in, was present, accounted for, was in the waiting room. It seemed quiet. That's again what makes me think that this wasn't related to the virus at all. The hospital was very, very quiet, actually. I think I was like one of the only people, if not the only person, even there at that time. And it was daytime. I'd say it was like either late morning or early afternoon, maybe between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Midday, and there were very few people. It was very quiet. No one had the masks on either. It's another thing. No one was masked up. And I go into the room. It's like your typical, I don't know, doctor's office room, I'm sitting there. And the nurse comes in, and she's just asking the usual questions, just taking down some information, was just checking, I think, like the vitals, taking the blood pressure, etc. And, again, everything's going normally. And then the doctor eventually, so I'm left to my own devices, everything's going normally. It's like a totally normal appointment until this point. Everything is smooth, it's fine, it's like indistinguishable, right? Then the doctor comes in and a few assistants, and they have this, I didn't realize this until now. I'm starting to look around, and there's this, IV already in the room. And it's a hospital. What do you, I don't know. You're not going to sit there and analyze every little thing in this place that you're never really supposed to be at all the time as a patient. It's like, well, so what? It's a hospital environment, The doctor and these assistants come in. The assistants, they kind of start, setting something up. And again, I'm not really, I'm just there for a checkup or something. Maybe I was there for tests, and maybe I thought they were just going to get the stuff to do these tests on me or something. I don't know. But the doctor, he's talking to me, and he's, we're just talking about things. He was mentioning something about sleep and how it, something about the brain waves and some sort of topic. And then he says, he distracts me. That's what they do. They try to distract you if they're going to go in for something else. It's such an easy trick, That's how so many magicians do their act, do their skit. The sleight of hand, they make you look at something else and they do something where you're not looking. You're distracted. And I remember the doctor distracted me. He was saying, and it must have been a cue or something to his assistants. But I was distracted and I was looking over to my left. Again, I'm sitting here on the little table. I'm looking on the left, almost maybe on the floor. He was like, did you maybe pretended to drop something, I don't know. But obviously I wasn't looking at my right arm. And that's when, as I'm distracted, the one assistant forcibly grabs me. The other one restrains me. And at this point I'm shocked, and they shove the IV in my arm. I mean, very, very crudely, but they wanted to get it in there and get it in there quick. And as this IV, this drip now is starting to get into me, they also put this one, like, gas mask, maybe it was like, I don't know what it was, over my face. And I remember hearing the doctor say, get him ready. And then it doesn't go black. It's not like it fades out in the movies. It's exactly like, how it was when I was getting my mouth operated on, when I had the very serious, hardcore general anesthesia applied to me. It's like a jump cut. For those of you who have been under that type of anesthetic before, you know exactly how it is. Whatever it is, the fentanyl or what have you. It's like, especially in the surgical setting, you're there 1 second, and the next you're in recovery. And there's no space in between, you're not dreaming. It's not like you can feel yourself falling asleep. It's a jump cut, like a jump cut in a video. You're there 1 minute, you're somewhere else the next. It's almost like you traveled in time. There's no recollection, one single bit of any moment in between then. The amnesia is just that strong, you just do not remember. And that's what happens. I'm there in that room 1 minute, and the next, I'm back at home laying on the couch. And I'm thinking to myself, I feel weak. I feel like disoriented. I feel cloudy. And I'm thinking to myself, what just happened? I check the time, and it's, now it's like 4 p.m. Obviously, a couple hours went by, and something had happened. And I'm trying to rack my brain around it. I'm thinking, the first thing in this dream I'm thinking did I just fall asleep here on the couch? Was I supposed to go to the hospital today and get this appointment, and I just fell asleep and had this vivid dream that, I don't know, I was, drugged and experimented on, or what? Or did I really, what's going on? Was this some sort of psychosis? Was it some sort of dream? Did this really happen, or what? And I get to the mirror and I start checking myself, Feels like something's not right. Start examining myself. I start looking anywhere, anywhere I can to see, all right, is there any redness? Is there any bruising? Are there any cuts? Is there anything that I can tell was done to me? I'm looking. I check my torso, check my legs, check everything. Can't see a single thing. Check my face. Can't see it. Then I start checking my head. I'm, combing my fingers through my hair. I'm trying to examine my scalp. And all I notice in my scalp is this very, very thin area of red that almost looked like something was done right there. That you can tell that it's not just an itch, it's not just a scratch, but rather a very, very tiny incision in my scalp. And I couldn't tell what it was, but what it seemed in the context of this dream is that something was probably either worked on in my brain or implanted, or something to that extent. And I was mortified. And then you start thinking to yourself, am I just making this up? Did I really go to this place? Did they really do this? Is there anything I can do about this? What proof do I have? Who's going to believe you if you sit there and you're trying to tell the police, look at my, they're going to think you're insane. They're not going to listen to you. No one's going to do anything. And I didn't even believe myself, but the next day I went down to that hospital because I was scared. It's go down to that hospital in this dream, and I go in and I want to see that doctor. I want to speak to that doctor. I want to talk it over. I want to just see for myself what happened. They're not there. And I remember in the dream, the receptionist claiming that there was no one by that name at this facility. And that's when the dream ended. Now, obviously, it was a cliched dream. You see that premise in terms of medical experimentation, government experimentation, etc., done so many times. And I probably had that dream from some story that I read or something, who knows. But that's a rare genre of dreams that I've had, I'll tell you that. Some sort of forced... To me, it wasn't like some sort of mad scientist vibe. But instead it was like deliberate work by the government. Like, I don't know if it was something for tracking or something for mind control or something to try to just alter the functions of my brain, but obviously it was some sort of operation carried against me, forcibly against my will, to do something to my brain. And then, of course, they intentionally cover it. They knew where I lived. They knew how to get in. They knew to deposit me back there, and then to immediately close up shop and, gaslight you into making you think that it never happened, and no one would ever believe you. But it was a crazy dream. It wasn't scary. Of course, in saying this now, the premise of such forced medical experimentation, especially to the brain, is a terrifying prospect. But when I woke up the dream, it was not like a nightmare. I've had those dreams too, where it's like you wake up and you've had a full-blown panic attack in your sleep. And you feel, shaky if you're lucky for hours. Sometimes there was one dream that I had a couple years ago that I didn't feel the same for like 3 days afterward because it was so real, This one felt real too, but it wasn't a sense of fear. It wasn't a sense of anxiety. Rather, it was this sense of like bewilderment, like, oh my gosh, this is really, really strange because I've never had a dream like this before. It's creepy. It's creepy when you think about it. And obviously medical experimentation does happen to this day. Right now with the COVID-19 pandemic and everything going on, look, most medical professionals are here to help you. They're here to help you. They take the oath and they stand by it 100%. And most medical professionals, they might have, some of them might have attitudes, some of them might give you a little bit of a hard time, but they're not there to hurt you. They're not there to drug you and do these awful things to you. Of course, you do get some bad ones that will. And, there are cases of legitimate governments experimenting on people. But, gosh, it was just creepy. What else can you say? And it was such a unique dream that I couldn't help but say, no, I'm going to recount it for you guys, because it's probably some quality entertainment. Have you ever heard me sit here and talk about that before? No, probably not. But it certainly was a unique dream again. So that's what was going on there. But I don't know. I just wanted to share it. Speaking of medical professionals, though, a real experience that I actually just had with a medical professional that was good. No sketchy hospitals, no weird IVs, no anesthetics, no odd markings to the head or any of that. I actually did have to go to a doctor, I guess last week, because of an ear infection. Ear infections, there's different types of it. It could happen to anyone, could happen for any reason. Sometimes ear infections, they just happen because they happen. Sometimes there are characteristics. It depends on the type. It depends on what it is. But I've been dealing with an ear infection the last, week and a half. It's getting better, though, so first and foremost, getting better. Everything is on the up and up there, but it makes for an interesting story anyway. But you have the different types of ear infections. You have the outer ear infection, which is swimmer's ear. That's when you have like some irritation, some discomfort, pain, etc. On the outer ear, right outside of the eardrum. And that's usually what they call swimmer's ear, right? That could sometimes be triggered by moisture, by diving, by swimming, all that stuff. That's how that can happen. Largely, it's topical. Then you have an inner ear infection, usually called Otitis Media, And that's what I had to deal with this last week and a half. That's where the ear infection is behind the eardrum, again in the inner ear. And it's caused by a variety of reasons, but usually it's the root cause of it usually comes down to either nasal or sinus issues, maybe a little cold or something. Not the COVID. I was researching this. Coronavirus has no correlation to ear infections at all. So, and I feel good otherwise. I mean, it's obviously not coronavirus or anything. But it causes, because there's a little tube that goes from your nose to your inner ear. It's called the eucastrin tube. And that's how you can pressurize your ears. Right? That's when you take that deep breath, let's say when you're going in a plane or taking off and you yawn, you feel that little crackle or, they say, pop in your ear, right? That's because of the eucastrin tube. It pressurizes your ears. It allows for that pressure. It allows for, it keeps them in check. And when that tube gets inflamed, when it gets blocked, then that can cause fluid to build up inside the ear. And that fluid can be infected, and that can cause discomfort, it can cause pain, it can even cause temporary hearing loss. And if more and more fluid builds up and it's not able to drain properly, because it's supposed to drain through that little tube, if it's too inflamed for it to drain, and it just builds up, something's got to give. And that's when the pain on the eardrum gets worse and worse and worse, until, again, in some severe situations, it'll bust through the eardrum and your eardrum will break. That infected fluid will drain out your ear, and, then the eardrum itself will have to heal. It will, but it's not going to be fun, not going to be a fun time. Now, it's usually in more severe ear infections, but look, it could happen. It could happen to anyone. So, most ear infections, even the middle ear infections or inner ear infections, again, otitis media, like we were talking about, can clear up on their own within a relatively short span of time, within, they say, like 2 to 3 days. Now, they're most common in children, but they can happen in adults. And, it can. And they usually say, well, if the child has a high fever, if, is just in pain, if the eardrum breaks, whatever, then, go to a doctor. For adults, it's like, well, look, take it case by case. But if it's been longer than, 3 or 4 days, and it's still persisting, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better, then it might be good to see a doctor. So, The first day, it was actually the day that I finished up the last broadcast. And I think you heard me mention in the show the tinnitus. That's the day that it all started. So, I've had tinnitus for pretty much my entire life. But to the point where it's manageable. It's like it's always there. You always have that high-pitched background noise, but you can deal with it. It's like I'm used to it. I can live with it. It's not a problem. I don't care. I don't know. It's just part of life. I don't mind. It's, to me, I just lump it in with just the other internal noise. No big deal. Sometimes it's a little louder than others, but you could deal with it. But that day, it seemed like the volume of it was really pumped up. And it was in my right ear and my right ear only. It was this high-pitched, continuous tone that was extremely loud. And going along with that, certain other high-pitched sounds felt like either sensitive or muffled, which was really strange, along with this just continuously high-pitched tinnitus. And it wouldn't go away. I thought to myself, maybe it's allergies. I don't know. I took a Claritin. Nothing. Didn't do anything. Made sure I took my vitamins, supplements, whatever. Didn't change anything. I took a Tylenol. That helped a little bit, but it didn't stop anything. Eventually it cleared up a little bit on its own. It got more bearable, went to sleep. The next day, day 2, that tinnitus type of sound comes back. It's still there. That discomfort with the high-pitched sounds and tones is still there as well. It's not as bad as the first day. The first day I couldn't even think. It was like I wanted to rip my hair out. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't pay attention to anything, because it's just like this loud tone just blasting and blasting in your ear constantly. But day 2, it was still there. It was really annoying. I was still having trouble focusing, but it was a little better. Day 3, the tinnitus is gone, but it's replaced by this feeling of physical discomfort. Something's not right. Feels like maybe there's something in my ear. I don't know. I get it. I'm really looking, able to get a view in there. There's nothing. The ear is actually clean. There's nothing in there. Day 4. Now there's pain. It's a dull pain, but continuous, inside the ear. And that discomfort, I should say, is deep in. It feels like it's right up on the eardrum. And there's this pain as well. Now on the 4th day, along again with that discomfort. Day 5. There's still that pain, there's still that discomfort, and I take my temperature, and my temperature is at 100 degrees. I don't feel sick. Don't have any other issues, no cough, no overt stuffiness, none of the COVID stuff, but it's just a low-grade fever, that pain, and that persistent discomfort. Again, seems like it's in the inner ear. Now, because the COVID cases are surging here, I wasn't able to do an in-person appointment with an ears, nose, and throat doctor, but I was able to do a telemedicine call. And I had a feeling up till then, I was really researching this, and I had a feeling this matches so many of the symptoms of inner ear infection. Maybe, I'll talk it over with the doctor, explain it very concisely, and maybe some antibiotics will help, I don't know. So do the video call, talk it over with the doctor, and, he agrees. He says, yeah, just by the look of it, seems very likely that it is, the Otitis Media, and going to prescribe you some antibiotic ear drops. I said, thankfully, by the looks of it, or at least from what you've been saying, it doesn't seem like your eardrum has broken or anything, because there's no fluid, draining out of it, that's a good thing. But, you can use these antibiotic ear drops, maybe they'll help. Of course, something is better than nothing. And then, you do a follow-up appointment if you want, if it doesn't get any better, and we'll go from there. So, I get the prescription drops. Let me tell you, they're no fun to put in, but it's bearable. It's like I know what I gotta do. I know it needs to be done. So it might be uncomfortable, but I'm not gonna sit there and not do it because it's a little uncomfortable. It's gotta be done. Gotta bite the bullet. Because it's just, when you have the liquid that slides so far in and it's gotta go right up to the eardrum, it feels weird, but it's no big deal. But the way you have to take it is you have to lay down, you have to have the affected ear upright, then you have to squeeze 3 of the drops in, you have to make sure they slide in good, and then you have to remain with that ear upright for about 5 minutes to make sure that they get absorbed in, at least, good enough. So I started doing that, and the next day, everything's about the same, but now I'm using these drops continuously, 3 times a day. And then the day after that, I guess it's been about a week now, wow, there's improvement. It starts feeling better. And I keep up the regimen. The day after that, it feels better. And the day after that, and now here we are today. Really, aside from the ear still feels a little, I don't know if you'd say full, but very, very mildly at this point. It's like a type of discomfort you wouldn't even really notice unless you pay attention to it now. The pain is gone, and I think those antibiotic ear drops are really helping. I think my body would have probably been able to fight it on its own, but it was just taking so long. I think the ear drops gave it that little bit of a boost that it needed, and it's clearing up very, very swiftly now at this point. Now, the one thing with antibiotics, this is just important info to anyone who has to take them. Whatever you do, even like in this case, it's already starting to feel much better. Do not stop taking them until the regimen is complete. Whatever you do, don't. Just take them. I don't care if you feel better or not. Keep taking them. I'm going to keep using these eardrops until, it's instructed not to do it anymore. Because one thing that is possible is antibiotic-resistant bacteria. You do not want to have to deal with that. Just keep doing your thing. Keep it up. Wait till it runs out. But the telemedicine worked. Of course, preferably I would have liked if he could have gotten a view into the ear itself, but I could save that for another day. He was a good doctor. He listened, very attentive, and these ear drops definitely what was needed. So it's just a story also as to how I've been doing, but it's a good one. Everything's getting much better. But it's a good experience. Again, no sketchy hospitals, no experimentation, none of that. Just a good doctor and a good ending at that. So everything seems to be doing good otherwise. And now we go into the mailbag portion of the show. It's really self-explanatory, the name is. It's simply a listener correspondence program. All you need to do, there's a clean slate. This is a place for you to ask questions. If you have a suggestion for a topic, if there's something you want to hear my thoughts on, or if there's something that you want to share your thoughts on. Questions, comments, opinions, pieces of feedback, reception reports, and anything in between. There's a clean slate, there's no topic, there's no sort of lines that you have to stay in between, and you only talk about this or only talk about that. The only rule is simply be respectful. Remember the principles we talked about earlier in the show. Please try your best to adhere to them. Otherwise, be my guest to talk about what you will. Of course, I cannot guarantee that I will be able to read every piece of feedback that comes in, but I certainly try my best in each show to get to as much as I can. For today's broadcast, we have, again, close to 50 emails. We've really been doing 50 or so for each show. And we'll just get to whatever we can. I have them all lined up here. We'll just start knocking them back one at a time and go from there. If you want to contribute to this broadcast in the form of corresponding, again, your feedback is welcome. It could be on anything. It could be a question, again, a comment. an observation, something that you've noticed in the world, something you've noticed in the news, something interesting you saw or read about or listened to, or anything in between. Also, fan art is welcome. If you're feeling creatively inclined, you can also draw a piece of fan art if you want, and I will try my best to feature it in the next show. For those of you watching on YouTube, you see the thumbnail of each program is a piece of fan art. That could be your piece as well, and I'll be happy to credit you. All you need to do is send in the piece of fan art. It could be anything. You can send it in, attach it to the email, or send a link to the image hosting site, and I will try my best to get it featured there, and I will credit you. You can let me know either your name, or you can let me know what your social media is, or if you have a website, or what have you. You've taken the time to make this piece. I will certainly take the time to give you the credit you deserve. The way to correspond with this broadcast or send in a piece of fan art is simple. You can send an email, long or short, to vorwinfo@gmail.com. That's vorwinfo@gmail.com. I used to do this over the radio, but I'll do it for the heck of it, spelling out the email address in the Nato phonetic alphabet. That's Victor, Oscar, Romeo, Whiskey, India, November, Foxtrot, Oscar, @gmail.com. That spells out vorwinfo @gmail.com. I've said that email address so many times that I think should be cleared up at this point. I think we know what the address is. So with that, let's take a look at some of the feedback that has come in. We'll just start at a random place. We'll go from there. You could probably hear me plop down in the chair. And anyway, we're going to get to some good feedback. Alright. We've got it opened up. Now let's just pick one. It's always tough picking out what the first email is going to be, but you gotta start somewhere, so let's just go down a little bit. Let's go down over here. Alright. First email addressed to the show comes in from Bill. He says, "Hi John, I listened to your recent show and enjoyed it. I found it interesting that you had an English accent when you were young. I have a crazy theory, but I believe in past lives, and wonder if you were someone with that accent in your previous life and it carried over. Do you believe in rebirth?" That was from Bill listening in. So thank you, Bill, for your question. And though the concept of rebirth is always interesting, of course there's so much that we don't know, and largely when it comes down to this life, or if there is something after, or if there isn't, or should there be something, again, be that an afterlife, or be that reincarnation or rebirth, etc., that usually goes down to various religious philosophies. Of course, with religion comes down various conflicts and very, very heated debates. But largely, I don't. But even putting any sorts of religious doctrine aside for the sake of this discussion, I don't believe in rebirth. That's just personally how I feel. Really, because, people, they talk about past lives, etc. I can't say I've ever had any sorts of compelling evidence, at least in my case, to suggest that there ever has, been one, at least in my instance. Interestingly enough, though, I have seen a good amount of discussions, especially on radio programs like Coast to Coast AM, talking about past lives. And it's always interesting. It's always interesting how some of the guests that they have on, go into such detail about it. Now, if you want to play devil's advocate, for instance, and let's say that everyone does have past lives, perhaps there's a way to, then maybe it's just a certain way to be able to see that properly, to be able to discern that there is a past life or not. That you can really look a certain way and you have to get maybe a certain mindset. You have to have this certain focus, certain maybe meditative state to be able to ever see that, and otherwise with your current state of mind that wouldn't be possible. I guess that's, again, to play devil's advocate, a possibility. But it's an interesting theory, I have to say. That's the first time anyone's ever said, I mean, people say a lot of things, of course, but prescribing it to the accent, correlating that with a past life. Very interesting. Thank you, Bill, for writing in. It's good to hear from you. We have Nelson in Brazil, who says, first, I'm sad about the whole situation with YouTube. It doesn't make any sense. After hearing you talk about people relying too much on artificial intelligence to write, I came up with a random question related to one of my hobbies. On the side of shortwave radios, where I discovered your work, I collect and restore fountain pens. So I'd like to know, do you have any experience with them? I think they fit your style and are an excellent tool for those who like to write. If you are interested, the Twisby Echo, Pilot Metropolitan, and Lemmy Safari are good models to start with, along with Diamine inks. Cross also has excellent models, very similar to the rollerball pens you have listed in your Amazon shop. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you continue despite all the problems with your excellent work. Well, thank you, Nelson. Glad you listened in on the shortwave also down there in Brazil. Fountain pens. I've never used one, believe it or not. Though I've been asked that before. People say, you look like the kind of person who would use a fountain pen. And I say, I don't know, do I? Maybe I do look like a fountain pen type of person, but no, I don't. I don't use a fountain pen. I've never used a fountain pen, actually. Looking at them right now, though, they are interesting. You know, I would use one, though. Certainly would. I've heard some people that they say that the writing with fountain pens is, I don't know, is smoother, the word that I'm looking for? But something to that extent, anyway, that it's just a very smooth type of writing instrument. I'm curious. I wonder if, you know, because to me it seems like fountain pens... See, that's what I thought. They look, you know, they're very aesthetically pleasing, of course, but I was thinking, I doubt they would be the best for calligraphy. And it's possible, but it's not usually encouraged. Okay, that's interesting. Fountain pens, but no, I've never used one. I remember once I knew someone who had one and used it for like a little bit, and the pen was a mess. It leaked everywhere, and it just seemed really sloppy. And I just figured that pen maybe wasn't managed properly, I don't know. It was like they would write and then an entire drop of ink would come out, and it would be a mess. And if that's the case, I wouldn't want to deal with that. I want something that's organized and smooth. Now, my handwriting, it's not a contest. It's not some sort of competition. I'm not there to try to look, you know, well, who has the best handwriting. My handwriting is terrible. It's indecipherable, really. So I'm not there to try to, you know, impress anyone with any sort of writing or note-taking. Really, some of you have seen what it looks like, and it's just scribble. I can read it, and pretty much no one else can. And it's a mix of sloppy print, occasional cursive letters thrown in, and that's about it. But, you know, what I use are those cross pens. I like the gel ones, to tell you the truth. You know, some people say, well, why? Oh, it's not as good as the fountain pens. Well, maybe they're not. But that's my personal favorite. That's what I go with. That's what I enjoy using. I just like the way that they look, number one. They're important to me. They just have a really good aesthetic appeal, but they fit in the hand good. And they write very smoothly. Not too much ink comes out, not too little. The gel cartridges are perfect. It lasts for a very long time, and they're just really, really good writing instruments, the best I've ever used. Pencil, I'm done with pencil. I mean, it serves its purpose, at least you could erase pencil, but I don't know, it just seems too light to me. Whenever I write, I always like it to be very dark. That's another thing. So, pencil is an issue, and then all these cheap pens. When I was in school, I would always use these really, really, just cheap garbage pens, these stupid plastic ones that you would get, for a few bucks you would buy a bag of 20 or 40 of them, and they were always, it was a disaster. One would explode, one would break, one would fall apart, one would run out of ink, it would be too light, or it would never work properly. So, those cross pens, they work. I've been using them for years, and there's a reason why. There's a reason. Because it's one of those things that you've found what works best for you. And different things work for different people. There's no denying that. That's why I'm gonna say, with these pens, it's not like one size fits all. You know how it is. Everyone's different. It'd be like if I tried to tell every last person that a fountain pen is all they could ever use. It's like, well, yeah, some people would be like, wow, this thing is amazing, it's fantastic. Others would say, yeah, I hate this, I really don't like it. So certain things work for certain people, but I mean, I am open to trying out a fountain pen at some point, just for curiosity's sake. I'll certainly do that at some point. I'll go get one. Thank you for the suggestions, by the way. And when I eventually do, I can report back and let you know what I think. But fountain pens are interesting. It is a topic that's been raised in the past. Alright, next email comes in, let's see, from Matt. He says, "Hello, sir. Greetings from South Devon, UK. Just one question. When will you do another paranormal show? Love anything to do with the unexplained or supernatural, and I've recently discovered a YouTube channel, and I'm enjoying falling asleep to your videos. Keep up the good work, and thank you for all the great content. P.S. The Bigfoot stuff was great. You should look into dogmen/werewolves. We don't have Bigfoot in the UK, but we have a suspected werewolf in Wales. Search Welsh werewolf. You might like the Unexplainers, a UK comedy duo that do a program on the paranormal. All the best from Matt." Well, thank you, Matt. Good to hear from you over in the UK. Well, here's the thing. I enjoy the paranormal, I still do. My biggest issue is that I don't know what's safe to talk about and what isn't anymore. Because again, I made that mistake back in January, where I thought to myself, the coronavirus is just, it's something that's going on, it's a topic. I thought I was having sensible discussion on it. Clearly YouTube disagreed, and they hurt the channel over it. So, I just don't want to take the risk, because, I just can't. I can't do it. Maybe I'll do it somewhere else, but I can't do it here. How do I know that they're not going to listen to something, let's say talking about werewolves, and say that it's, promoting a harmful conspiracy or something, and, give another strike? See, I can't. Maybe they won't, but how do I know that that's not going to happen? Because I thought to myself, the mistake that I made this year was thinking that they would never do that to begin with. But, you just don't anymore. Once it happens, it's like, wait, this changes everything. So, for the time being, I might bring it up, in pieces, like in a show, but dedicating an entire show to it more blatantly, I just don't know if that's going to happen, at least, again, in the near future. At some point down the road, who's to say? But that's my concern. But certainly the paranormal, cryptids, all that stuff is still of great interest to me, even if I don't talk about it as much as I did, let's say, a year ago. That interest is still there. It hasn't diminished. It hasn't gone away. It's not like, I hate this stuff now and that's why I don't talk about it. Not at all. My feelings toward it are just as strong as they were last year. Those topics are still of interest. It's just given how things have been, it's just you're a little more cautious. I think that's the best word for it. Next we have Manta checking in, says, I don't know if you've talked about dreams you've had, or dreams overall in more depth, but it would be interesting to hear what kind of things you generally dream about. I remember in a couple of videos you mentioned dreams you've had. One had a vehicle with sesame seed buns for wheels, and the other had, if I remember correctly, a merry-go-round with the nacho fries. I'm very into dreams myself. I keep a dream diary, and often get inspired by my dreams when it comes down to my art. So I'm curious, here are a few questions. Now before you ask the questions, I'm sure you've already listened to the broadcast, so you know that I actually did discuss a dream recently. Do you often dream, but getting to your question now, do you often dream about the food you eat and review? Do you have/had any recurring dreams? If so, what are they about? And if you're comfortable answering, what's the worst or one of the worst nightmares you remember having? The topic popped into my head because a few days ago I had a dream where I was at a beach, and you were there too, though you were trying to keep hidden behind a giant beach ball that you were carrying around at all times. Just a guy in a suit looking very suspicious carrying a beach ball around. Thought it was an amusing sight. So that's from Manta. Thank you for writing in. To get to your questions, in order. Number 1, do you dream often about the food that you eat and review? No, actually. Very, very, very rarely do I ever have dreams about any sort of food. Most of my dreams, I would say, are focused on current events or the world, and I don't remember them that often. Sometimes I'll remember them right when I wake up, only to forget them once again. But oftentimes they take place in very scenic, fantastical places, or they could be more mundane, but usually when they're mundane they end up being more serious. I haven't really had any recurring dreams, though again it's just those two themes. Again, they're either just in these beautiful, scenic/fantastical places, or they're more serious dreams. And I don't really remember any nightmares that I've had. It's just, some dreams are bad, but certainly there's good dreams too, plenty of good dreams. But not a lot of food-related dreams, interestingly enough. So thank you for your question. The topics continue. You're listening to VORW International. Gunnar writes in, Hello, Mr. Bra, longtime listener and subscriber to both your YouTube channels. I'm a delivery driver, and I like listening to your show while driving at work. I deliver for Pizza Hut, and that brings me to one question. What's your opinion on Pizza Hut? I know you like your pizza, but I haven't seen many reviews from you on Pizza Hut. Since I work there, I get to eat their food all the time, and I think it's pretty good. And I was just curious about your opinion on it. Thanks for all that you do, and have a good day. P.S. I won't be offended if you don't like it. Well, thank you for writing in. Good to hear from delivery driver out there. I have certainly been using delivery quite a bit, ever since, of course, even before the pandemic, but especially with all of that going on. So, Pizza Hut, I'll tell you the truth. My opinions on a lot of these places are constantly changing. With Pizza Hut, there's a few items from Pizza Hut that, I really, really like. And I think you know how it is. Like, you got your favorites. You got something there that's like, yeah, this item is great. This is what I keep coming back there for. And for me, pizza-wise, that'd be the stuffed crust pizza. I like the stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut. All the little variants and derivatives that they release here and there are pretty good. The Cheesy Bites pizza, of course, it's just brought back every now and then, but the Cheesy Bites pizza is my all-time favorite. And whenever they release that thing, you better believe, I go there, and I go there often for it, because it's a good pizza. I like the Cheesy Bites pizza, but their standard stuffed crust pizza is pretty solid as well. One thing from Pizza Hut that I've been getting lately that I enjoy are their sides, believe it or not. I like their cheese sticks, and I like their boneless wings, the Wing Street ones. I've actually just... Because to tell you the truth, people don't really think about it this way, but you can get the sides by themselves and still make it a meal. I don't necessarily have the biggest appetite, so it works better for me than just getting a full-blown pizza. Especially, again, while I really like the stuffed crust pizza, it comes in one size. You have to have a big appetite for it. And, no, I don't know. Sometimes I've just been getting their cheese sticks, and then I'll get some boneless wings, medium, and I'll get that, and it's enjoyable, just as good. But some items from Pizza Hut can be hit or miss, but overall I like Pizza Hut, and the delivery is always good. You guys always do a good job, so those are my thoughts on Pizza Hut. Hopefully no offense was issued, because really I just have good things to say. Next up we have some feedback coming in, let's see, from Ice Cream Gecko, who writes, "It's been a while since my last email to you, but I think the time has come for this one. I've been wanting to hear your opinions about recent developments regarding the pandemic ever since it emerged. I've been following the topic myself since early January. Shockingly, most did not pay attention to it until we were all in it, with the little time we initially had spent on playing down the rapidly developing situation or simply calling it a hoax altogether. That being said, I was shocked hearing you mention what happened to that video of yours in which you addressed the crisis. I completely understand that you're keeping the taps closed when it comes to that topic. YouTube hasn't been too transparent when it comes to locking down channels for questionable reasons, and even pulling other channels of the same person off the air. It's frightening to see what they've implemented, some of the same rules as Twitch. I did record a little video about the virus myself a couple months ago addressing some points, but luckily it still sits on my channel happily. I guess one has to be monetized to get in trouble with videos like that. While I have got the required watch time, I still need a few more subscribers to enter the club of the demonetized. Maybe it's for the better. To interject, thank you for your understanding. Yeah, believe me, there's some things that I really want to talk about, but this is YouTube, this is their house, I'm going to play by their rules. If there's something that I really, really, really want to talk about, then, I'll go talk about it on the shortwave, I can do that. I'm just not going to go sit here and intentionally say, oh, F you guys, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and whatever. I'm not going to be a stick in the mud about it either. It's their site, it's their rules. I object to some of them, but what can I do? Sometimes we have these things, we don't always agree with it, but I still gotta respect it. You know how it is. But going back to your email, he says, back to your channel, can we expect a 2020 average day video? I've always enjoyed that annual series, and this year appears to be just perfect for such a video. I remember watching last year's episode thinking, great, next one's gonna take some time, but the first half of this year went by a lot quicker than I thought. And thank you for the remainder of your email. You also say, P.S. That puff pastry croissant pizza that you reviewed was weird. We've got something similar coming out over here, but without the pizza label. People put cream cheese, green onions, and diced bacon on it. It's never my first choice, but not too bad every once in a while. Although these flaky crumbs get into everything and simply disintegrate and become one with clothes when you try to flick them off the shirt. It's horrible. So thank you again for writing in. Yeah, let me tell you, it's a real bummer. It's a real bummer. The the fact that the average day video, you have stuff planned for it. You think maybe, you'll have some fun with it. That's what I always try to do. Of course, some of my average days are very, very mundane, and I think anyone listening to this, kind of gets it, that the average day videos, while being average, certainly it's entertainment as well. And, certainly you try to find little things to film or little things to do, etc., etc. But what can you do? Last year was fun because, in the video, went outside, went to a location, filmed some stuff over there. Well, number one, can you even do that now? Places have really gotten strict. And secondly, I myself, say what you will, I don't care, am paranoid. Very much so. Of course with the virus, but also just given this whole year. It's just an indoor type of year. Time to stay in for a while at that. So, a lot of great ideas for that kind of were shelved immediately. Secondly, though, I don't know, the mood of that video is supposed to be jovial. It's not supposed to be some sort of depressing thing. Some people watch it, but it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be a fun, enjoyable video. But, again, it's not that I'm not happy. I'm very happy. I'm doing good, but the vibe of, the whole vibe just isn't right for this video right now. It's not. And that's why I haven't made it. I'll make it when the time is ready. I know it usually comes out in June. I don't care. If I have to, if the time is right in December to make the average day video, then I'll do it. You guys will likely get one, but I can't say when. I really don't know. I don't want to slap some piece of garbage together and try to put a ribbon on it and say, here it is, and people are going to watch it and they're going to be like, what is this crap, Sometimes with the average day video, I want people to watch it and look at it that way, but in a different context, and looking at the content of the video itself and the maybe mundane nature of it, but not the fact that it's just some piece of garbage slapped together. So the time just isn't right for it right now, and eventually, maybe it will be, but I just can't commit to something and then just give subpar. You know how it is. It'll be ready when it's ready. That's all that I could really say. Also enjoyed that you mentioned your own little derivative of the croissant crust pizza. And those flakes, let me tell you, the flakiness, it can be enjoyable, but yes, it can make for quite a mess. Absolutely, I second you on that. And then, yet when you try to flick it off the shirt, the thing just falls apart, and it's never coming out. I mean, that thing just embeds itself in the fabric, and it's good luck. May as well just burn it, because that's going to be its permanent residence otherwise. So either you gotta make friends or get a new shirt. Okay. Next up, we got an email coming in from John in the UK. He originally requested a shortwave schedule. I got back to him, sent him all the times in BST, and he said, grateful for the response, and I'll go ahead and buy a more expensive shortwave radio based on your recommendation, and thanks for converting the broadcast times to BST. So 2 questions. Number 1, how do you stay on top of all the new fast food releases? Is there a good way to do this aside from visiting each of the restaurants? Once coronavirus has eased and I can go out more, hoping to do my best to eat more variety of some fast food and move away from my usual. And question 2, or statement 2, I visited Florida recently and popped into a Steak and Shake. The food was good, but when I went to pay, there wasn't enough money on the card I use when I travel. Whilst I transferred the money from my main card to my phone, or from my main card on my phone, the manager, who had been reading a newspaper, was tapping his pen on the side, and making tutting sounds, and he was very rude to my friend who lives in Florida, but I can't remember exactly what he said. It bothered me, but I thought it was an isolated incident until I heard about your experience waiting for your food in the parking lot. I wonder if they were even having issues back then. This is around December time. Again, thanks for getting back to me. Kind regards, John. Thanks, John. Good to hear from you. Number 1, staying on top of the new fast food releases. So there's some sites that I use, and there's a website for everything. There really is. Good and bad, and everywhere in between. There really is. There is a resource, anything you want. You better believe it's there. Never underestimate the internet. And of course there are news sites that literally track fast food, new releases, new items, and is there anything out, etc. One site that I used to use, there's two that I used to use for years, and then there's one site called GrubGrade, and I actually screwed up in the last video that I did. I was sitting there and I said, because I was, well, at least at the time of recording this segment of the broadcast, I did the review for that cheesy thing from Taco Bell, it was, and I used Grubhub. And it always works good, because Grubhub, what I like, is they do the contactless delivery, and they take it, if you tip good, etc., it shouldn't give you any problems. I tell the driver, 'cause it's a real easy gig, I say, look, just drop the thing off in front of the door and leave. That's it. Don't even stick around, just leave it and go. I can send you a text, I could do whatever you need to confirm that I got it, but I don't care. Just go on with your day. So, they always adhere to that. And that's what I like about Grubhub. I like the true contactless delivery like that. Other places have this weird ritual where it's like, they have this little pedestal that they'll put, this is like what Papa John's does, and I like their pizza, but the delivery practice is always a little strange. It's like, they have this little pedestal that they'll put out, and they'll put the pizza back on the pedestal, and then they'll step back 6 feet and watch you get it, and it's really weird. I don't know, why can't you just leave it there? It's not like this is, precious cargo or anything. If you've already paid in advance, what does it matter? Money's already exchanged hands. It's not, alright, if you haven't paid yet, then I get having to stick around and making sure you get what you need. But if you've already paid for it, which again I always do every time, then there's no point in having to sit there and babysit it. Just leave it. It's fine. But anyway, so I always like Grubhub, but as I was mentioning that, because that's how I got this Taco Bell item delivered, I got the name confused, and I said from GrubGrade, and there is a website that I used from probably 2016 to late 2019 that was called grubgrade.com. And then I don't know what happened. They would always post the new items, but then in November of 2019, I don't know, they just stopped. Did the guy in charge of the site die, or did he just, quit, or what happened? I really don't know. I don't say that to make a joke out of it. I really don't know. It just stopped with, I don't know what happened. So now what I use is a site called brandeating.com. Yeah, you'd be amazed the amount of publications that cover this stuff. It's incredible. And I actually haven't checked it recently, so let's see what they have. I don't know, let's look. You're going to see some intel gathering right now. What I think when I look at these new releases. Let's see, what do they have? KFC completes nationwide switch from potato wedges to new secret recipe fries. Who's gonna care about the fries? No one's gonna really be all that interested. I already tried that once with the fries from Arby's, and some people enjoyed that, but not a lot of people are really interested in just the fries. You know, fries are good, but it's not center stage, so if I get really desperate, I guess I can try that, but I don't... Who even talk... Let me ask you this question. I'm just saying this to the general viewing audience. Who even thinks about the French fries from KFC, really? You know, I don't know one single person who sits there and says, I'm gonna go to KFC for the fries. I've had the potato wedges. They're okay. You know, I don't know, it's just unremarkable. But I don't know, if I get really desperate, I guess that's something to try out. Burger King is selling their own beer in Denmark and Sweden. Well, that doesn't apply here. $1 deal for mini shakes on Burger King, maybe. Sonic brings back the BBLT for summer 2020. That's a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich with extra bacon. I think I already reviewed that once, but again, I guess if I get